It is 9:09 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. It is the 6th day of May, 2025. This is episode 1089 of Bitcoin, and we got some weird stuff going on with the Southern District of New York Federal Court and the Samourai case, along with Tornado Cash. It's seems that there's been some evidence that was withheld that led up to the indictment of the fellows behind Tornado Cash and Samourai Wallet. Let's just start off today with Lola Leeds, because she's been keeping tabs on this pretty much more than anyone else. She has the best coverage of what's going on. So here's Lola Leeds writing for Bitcoin Magazine. SDNY, withholding of evidence undermines charges against Samourai Wallet. This morning, a letter filed by the defense of Samourai Wallet developers Keon Rodriguez and William Longerland Hill revealed that the Southern District of New York had suppressed exculpatory evidence in the criminal case. According to the filing, the prosecution had consulted FinCEN prior to the indictment of the developers on the viability of bringing unlicensed money transmission charges against a non-custodial service. Quote, a mixer like Samourai that does not take custody of the cryptocurrency by processing the private keys would strongly suggest that Samourai is not acting as a money services business, or MSB, FinCEN directly told the prosecutors, according to the filing. In internal communications, prosecutors stated that they may bring charges based on the functional control of the code, likely referring to Samourai's control over the user interface and Samourai Wallet's CoinJoin server. The prosecution stated that such an argument, quote, has never been addressed in the guidance, acknowledging that it could, quote, be a difficult argument to make, end quote. The communications between FinCEN and SDNY were revealed following a so-called Brady request ordering the government to hand over any evidence that may exonerate the developers of the charges. The government is required to hand exculpatory evidence over to the defense 2 weeks after filing its indictment at the latest. The late disclosure of such highly relevant materials may now have misled the court, the letter alleges, affecting both the bail requirements placed on the developers as well as the judge's inclination to deny the filing of a motion to dismiss. The defense is now seeking a hearing to determine potential remedies to SDNY's conduct, including the dismissal of the charges. Quote, it is hard to imagine a more clear example of regulation by prosecution than what we have here, the defense states, referring to the recent Blanche memo. Quote, the relevant regulator telling the prosecutors that Samourai Wallet was not, I repeat, not a money transmitter under the same public guidance that Mr. Rodriguez and Mr. Hill relied on to guide their conduct, and the prosecutors going ahead and indicting them anyway for operating an unlicensed money services business, end quote. FinCEN's stance on non-custodial service providers shared with SDNY echoes its 2019 guidance, which stated that, quote, a cryptocurrency wallet provider is to be classified as a money transmitter if, quote, the host has total independent control over the value, although it is contractually obligated to access the value only on instructions from the owner, end quote. That means they have control over the funds, guys, but they have to be told what to do with it by the owner of said funds. Otherwise, they could be, well, it would be, generally speaking, theft or misfeasance or malfeasance. Anyway, advocacy groups and legal scholars alike have long argued that the prosecution of Samourai Wallet developers, as well as the prosecution of Tornado Cash developers Roman Storm and Roman Semenov, constitute a clear violation of FinCEN guidance. While Samourai's Brady request was successful, a similar request made by Tornado Cash developer Roman Storm, attempting to compel the government to disclose any materials received from OFAC and FinCEN not already produced, including any substantive communications with those agencies, was denied last year as the government argued that FinCEN is not part of the prosecutorial team on the case. As Storm points out on Twitter, he was arrested the same day Samourai wallet prosecutors consulted FinCEN on the viability of unlicensed money transmission charges, making it appear as though SDNY had additionally been aware of the stretch of its charges for the entirety of Storm's prosecution. Quote, FinCEN explicitly informed SDNY prosecutors that Samourai Wallet's non-custodial design did not require money transmitter licensing, yet the Department of Justice indicted the developers regardless. Bitcoin Policy Institute's head of policy, Zach Shapiro, tells Bitcoin Magazine, quote, this prosecution exemplifies regulation by criminal indictment directly defying Deputy Attorney General Blanche's directive and undermining the Trump administration's crypto policies, end quote. Further, quote, Brady violation, writes anti-money laundering expert J.W. Verrett on Twitter, the case should be tossed on that alone, much less the new DOJ memo effectively ordering SDNY to drop the case. The fact that prosecutors attempted to withhold this information from the defense is a serious ethical violation and may end up getting the case tossed, Verrett tells Bitcoin Magazine. That is, if the DOJ doesn't drop it altogether, given the main justice has effectively ordered the cases like this to be dropped. As we've said, the DOJ's unlicensed money transmission prosecutions are straight up counter to the rule of law. Today, we got further confirmation that the prosecution understood that it was contradicting long-standing regulatory guidance but brought the charges anyway. It follows that if they were not money transmitters under FinCEN's guidance, the defense states in their letter, then they could not possibly be prosecuted for not having a license and not implementing anti-money laundering controls, alluding that the case against Samourai wallet developers should be thrown out altogether. Okay, so that's the article. And I think Lola should have gone a lot more heavy on the prosecutorial team, and they're absolutely, at this point, it's malfeasance. It's not misfeasance. They didn't accidentally do it. They were told that there's no basis for the charges against, well, in this case, the Samourai wallet developers. It has implications for Tornado Cash, but this is expressly about the Samourai wallet case. They straight up knew that they were filing bad charges against them, and they did it anyway. Against FinCEN's guidance, that's the Financial Center or Financial Criminal Enforcement Network or whatever. They're the guys that are going to hand down guidance to people like the DOJ or the SDNY prosecutorial teams and say, no, you don't have a case. And that's what they told them. You do not have a case, and they filed it anyway. So what does this look like? Who do you remember that wasted the court's time? His name is Craig Wright. And it wasn't just the court, it was several courts, to the point that I think he's straight up barred from suing in any court in any country in the world at this point, because his malfeasance in withholding evidence and straight up falsifying evidence, straight up plagiarism, completely guided the court and misdirected the court. And that means the judge. That's Craig Wright. We know what a scam bastard that dude is. This is the Southern District of New York prosecutorial team doing almost exactly the same thing. They just wanted to get their way, and they lied and they cheated and they stole to do it, which means the judge looks like a fool. Judges, from my experience, don't like to be made to look like a fool. In my opinion, and it is only my opinion, the prosecutorial team of Samourai Wallet needs to be debarred. Every single one of them needs to lose their law license, barred from practicing law ever again, at least in the state of New York. The Department of Justice at the federal level should bar them, the entire prosecutorial team against Samourai Wallet and hopefully Tornado Cash, barred from ever practicing any amount of law inside the borders of the United States for the rest of their natural born lives. They've destroyed lives. They've stolen time from people. These guys could have been out on bail. And a lot, if they are out, well, I'm not sure if I don't know, not even sure if they are out on bail. I think they're actually in jail because they couldn't afford the bail, or bail was never set, because I don't know why, except for the fact that whatever the judge's reason for the bail stuff is going to be directly related to these charges, which now, they don't appear to be anything. They are, in fact, baseless charges. And this is the kind of shit that countries get into, where you have entire teams of people that were born in that country that are supposed to serve that actual country, just completely disregarding the country that they live in. These are beyond anti-patriots. These are straight up enemies of the state. Keep your fingers crossed, because this is so bad that I don't see how this court does anything but dismiss the charges. Now, whatever court, and I can't remember who, is probably Southern District of New York as well, whoever's handling Tornado Cash, they're going to have to bail out. If they don't, I don't see any way forward for them either, given the fact that this directly impacts the Tornado Cash thing as well as Samourai Wallet. So I really do appreciate what Lola Leet said about that, except that I think she's got one more thing to say here, that actually she does this on Nostr. She's got a note here that she posted up this morning at about 6 a.m. my time. And it says that the state of Indiana has just dismissed an unlicensed money services business and money laundering charges against Aurum exchange operator Maximiliano Pilippis, I think is how you pronounce it, because he could not be held liable for a crime that he didn't know he committed due to a lack of FinCEN guidance. I'm no lawyer, but SDNY should finally do the right thing and dismiss charges against Samourai Wallet and Tornado Cash, given that FinCEN has acknowledged that its guidance does not address the functional control arguments made against the developers. Just like Maximiliano, neither SW or Samourai Wallet nor Tornado Cash could have known that they may have made themselves criminally liable for a charge that prosecutors appear to have completely pulled out of their asses. Yeah. See, when I was in high school and we were playing drinking games, we called those Insta rules. Yeah. So even the state, at the state level, Indiana's like, we're dropping all charges against this shit. Probably because they figured out that this FinCEN guidance that was basically ignored by all prosecutorial teams of Samourai Wallet, Tornado Cash, and Aurum Exchange. At least the guys at the Aurum Exchange, they were like, oh, holy shit, because they probably did not know what FinCEN actually said, because this is at the state level, and they immediately dropped charges. So even Indiana is signaling this, what we were screwed. We did not have the correct information. We were completely misguided. We've wasted everybody's time. All charges dropped. I suspect that by the end of this week, we will see either all charges against Samourai Wallet dropped and Tornado Cash starts that case starts signaling that they may drop, or both cases get dropped this week. That's I'm going to make that prediction. Keep your fingers crossed. Keep those guys in your prayers. Maybe we can get out of this one. But we're not probably going to be able to get out of the op return limit debacle. Yeah, I'm going to have to. I got to do it because an announcement seems to have been made. Martin Young, Cointelegraph, says Bitcoin Core to unilaterally remove controversial op return limit. This was written 9 hours ago, by the way. Bitcoin Core developers have decided to remove a limit on transaction data in the next network upgrade, enabling more data to be included in a more efficient way. Quote, Bitcoin Core's next release will, by default, relay and mine transactions whose op return outputs exceed 80 bytes and allow any number of these outputs. Read the announcement on GitHub by Bitcoin developer Greg Sanders on May the 5th. That was yesterday. The long-standing limit was originally a gentle signal that block space should be used sparingly for non-payment proof of publication data and apparently has outlived its utility. The proposal, PR 32359, was created by Bitcoin pioneer Peter Todd at the request of Chain Code Labs. Now, this is another piece of news, so let's pause. Somebody, and I can't remember who, dug it up. It showed a screenshot on StackerNews. Nonetheless, stacker.news is a great place to go, but I didn't even realize that Peter Todd posted over to stacker.news. Somebody was bitching and moaning about the op return debacle thing. And Peter Todd, and specifically was bitching about Peter Todd doing it. Peter Todd wrote back and said, no, I was requested to make this pull request by somebody else. I have seen the screenshot, but nobody has come up with the actual link to that Stacker News page. So I can't verify that he actually did that shit himself. And even if, I mean, I don't even know if it's really Peter Todd over there on stacker.news, but it appears as of right now that this was not Peter Todd's idea. This does not remove him from blame, by the way. He did it at the behest of somebody who we don't know request, although now it appears that it may be Chain Code Labs. Jesus. See, sometimes you just get handed a bag of crap, but you still got to report on it. Op return is a special type of Bitcoin transaction output that allows storing small amounts of data on the blockchain, and it was popularized during the ordinals inscription craze of early 2024. Yeah, well, last year. Unlike regular transaction outputs, op return outputs are not spendable and don't bloat unspent transaction outputs. The original limit is no longer effective, as people found out ways to get around it, such as using fake output addresses, which are actually worse for the network, while some mining services were already ignoring the limit, said Sanders. Quote, large data inscriptions are happening regardless and can be done in more or less abusive ways. The cap merely channels them into more opaque forms that cause damage to the network, end quote. Benefits of removing the limit include a cleaner UTXO set or database of spendable outputs, more consistent behavior across the network, and better alignment with how Bitcoin is actually being used, he added. 3 possible paths were considered. 1, keeping the cap. 2, raising the cap. And 3, removing the cap, which was ultimately decided upon after earning broad, though not perhaps unanimous, support. Quote, many users find this to be an undesirable change for a number of reasons, said Bitcoiner Samson Moe on Twitter on May the 5th. He added that users can refuse to upgrade and stay on 29.0 or run another implementation altogether of the network. Critics said that the proposal was introduced without a proper consensus process. Quote, I think one thing is pretty clear. There is no consensus at the moment on this op return issue, said 1031 fund managing partner Marty Bent. Some also expressed concerns about deprioritizing Bitcoin's financial utility and raised questions about undisclosed conflicts of interest. Jesus. Hold on. He's got a screenshot of God forbid, Bitcoin Twitter here. Hold on. Moonsetter says, children's book version. Yes, it's still garbage. No, removing garbage bins does not make garbage disappear. Yes, garbage is less harmful in the bin. No, you can't force people to use the garbage bin. Yes, you can try shaming people into using the garbage bin. And then Jonathan Silverblood comes back to say, fun analogy. I think op return is a sensible say, I think it meant to say way, but it's spelled say, to store some types of transactional metadata, but 10 kilobytes per output is kind of insane. Imagine that, a Bcacher not wanting to fill up them blocks. Okay, so, well, whatever. Is the problem here with more data on the blockchain? I'm going to probably give an unpopular opinion. No, I don't think so. We went through this with ordinals and inscriptions. No, it doesn't make that shit okay either. I'm just saying we're still here. We survived the ordinals and inscriptions thing. In a very real way, the removal of the op return cap in that sense, given that particular context, makes a sort of sense. Where I have a problem with is the way this was shoved through Bitcoin Core, the way that it got into Bitcoin Core in the first place, and the fact that anybody who, it seems, okay, I'm going to say it seems, that anybody who had anything that even remotely approached a dissenting view of this basically got, well, banned from the GitHub repository for Bitcoin. Everything about this is kind of bad, except for the fact that I don't think this is really about whether or not op return cap limit is removed or not. It's the way that this shit was handled. This feels very, very different. Now, when Marty Bent said, I think one thing is pretty clear, there's no consensus at the moment on this op return issue. The argument against that is that this is not a consensus rule. I tend to agree, but I don't think Marty Bent was actually saying that it was a consensus on a consensus rule. I think he was using the word consensus as in, we don't have widespread agreement on this at all. It seems to be a very small group of people shoving this shit through. And the way it was introduced is shady AF. I mean, and I like Peter Todd. Don't get me wrong. I actually like the guy. I've talked to him about cave diving before and how scary it would have to be diving in caves with a bunch of scuba gear on and you're underwater in caves and what the hell happens if you get lost. I've talked to the guy before. I like him. I don't know what he's doing. This is what's so odd for me, is that this sounds out of bounds for what the way that I have come to know Peter Todd. And wasn't talking to him back in Zcash days, but if you didn't know, Peter Todd was one of the guys that launched Zcash. He was part of the key ceremony is what they called it. I remember him being really pissed off at the Zcash developers a few years after they had opened that chain up. And he said, are you telling me that I drove all the way across Canada with a laptop wrapped in aluminum foil so that I could perform my duties as one of the key signers in the key ceremony for nothing? He was really angry about it. Because at the time, Zcash was like, had some pretty interesting privacy about it. But there's been nothing that I've ever seen of Peter Todd doing that seemed arbitrary. And I got to tell you, man, without totally being a fly on the wall and not being able to see very much of anything other than what's presented on social media and the GitHub stuff and StackerNews, this doesn't sound like him at all. So, no, I'm not suggesting that he's under duress. I'm just saying this just doesn't sound like him. And this is one of the reasons why this whole thing just gives me the willies. But there's two things here. There's nothing I can do about it, and that's okay. And B, or two, this isn't going to break Bitcoin. Because that one of the facts of the case is that people are getting around the limit of how much arbitrary BS data you can shove into a block via transactions. It doesn't matter. We're not dead. Roughly every 10 minutes, a block ticks over. If there's transactions that are valid, given consensus rules inside that block, or well, the transactions are mined and then put into the transactions are validated and then put into a mined block. So that a little fake, but I'm just saying people were getting around this anyway. People were doing this anyway. We were getting arbitrary data into the blocks anyway. We're not dead. For me, the only thing of any importance whatsoever is how this was handled. And just because it wasn't a consensus rule per se does not mean that something like this should not have been, discussed heavily with all the stakeholders of Bitcoin, instead of just saying, we're the developers, and if you're not a developer, then you have no business telling us what to do. I think that that's a really shitty attitude. So let's move on, because we have other things to do. We've got Florida deciding to pull the gun out of their holster and shoot themselves in the head, because they are withdrawing their strategic Bitcoin reserve bills, both of them from consideration. Jamie Crawley, writing for CoinDesk, Florida has indeed withdrawn 2 bills related to the creation of a state-level strategic Bitcoin reserve. House Bill 487 and Senate Bill 550 have been indefinitely postponed and withdrawn from consideration, according to the state Senate website. The 2 bills were both filed in February and sought to allow the investment of public funds into Bitcoin. That's all you need to know about that one. So, yeah, it's kind of a bad news day. Although, let's keep our fingers crossed for the Samourai thing. The only bad news is the fact that they've lost the time of their lives that they'll never be able to get back because of the greed and absolute malfeasance of the SDNY prosecutorial team. So that's the bad news part of it, but maybe we'll have some silver lining on the other side of it. But yeah, Florida, this is kind of a surprise. And, they joined like other dipshit states like Arizona and Oklahoma. I mean, they're all making pretty big mistakes, because none of these bills say you have to. It just opens up a mechanism that you can invest state funds into Bitcoin. So the whole thing about getting of having these things either vetoed or pulled from consideration kind of doesn't make sense, because it's like this is essentially just a freebie. This just opens a way. It doesn't designate that you have to. So I think Florida is making yet another mistake, along with a whole bunch of the other states that are doing the same thing, but we have numbers to run. CNBC, futures and commodities, oil actually getting a lift today for some reason or another, and I don't really know why, but West Texas Intermediate is up almost 4 points, back up to $59.41 a barrel. Brent North Sea is up 3 2/3 of a point. Natural gas is down 2 points to $3.49 per thousand, and gasoline is up 2 1/3 to $2.07 a gallon. Gold having a little rally here, 2.7% to the upside, $34.12 4 dimes. Silver up 2.61%. Platinum is up 3 1/3. Copper is up 1.7. Palladium is up 4%. Ag looking pretty mixed today. Biggest winner is chocolate. I guess erasing its losses from yesterday. 4 points to the upside. Biggest loser looks to be soybeans. Wow, down 0.79%. America loves their soybeans because it's all soy. Anyway, live cattle is up 0.13%. Lean hogs down 1.5%. Feeder cattle up 1/4. But the equity markets, your legacy equity markets, are not having the best day ever. Well, they're not having the best day, although it's been worse. Dow is down 0.5 point. S&P down 0.5 point. NASDAQ down 3/4 of a point. S&P Mini down 1/3. So I want to figure out why it is that oil's rallying. Hold on for a sec. Let me go over here. and see if I can get any kind of news whatsoever. No, there's absolutely no reason in the world that oil should be going up. So I guess somebody's just making some long bets there. All right, so price of Bitcoin, $94,620. That is a $1.88 trillion market cap. We can get 27.7 ounces of shiny metal rocks with our one Bitcoin, of which there are 19,860,838 and a third of, and average fees per block remain low at 0.04 BTC taken in fees on a per block basis. It looks to be about, let's see, 7 blocks carrying 13,000 unconfirmed transactions waiting to clear. High priority rates get you in at 6 Satoshis. Low priority gets you in at 4. And hash power is interesting today. The 1 week moving average is 901 exahashes. However, if I zoom into this graph here on mempool.space and I take it right to the edge, the hash rate, and it's not a direct indicator, it's just from the clues given by the blockchain, is the best number that we have. We are back over a petahash. 1,024 exahashes at this time. The moving average, which I think is beyond 1 week, is 869 exahashes per second. And like I said, the 1 week moving average is actually 901. So there's still no minor capitulation other than the selling off of Riot of its 463 Bitcoin that it mined last month. Other than that, I'm not really seeing any changes in the mining landscape. By the way, we are about to get a pretty hefty difficulty adjustment, 7.67% to the upside, coming April the 13th, because blocks seem to be coming in at 9.4 minutes apiece. So there you go. From Johnny eCash, yesterday's episode of Bitcoin, and I got anonymous with 2,000 sats, says, Tether as the central bank of all shit. Yet all these younger kids hate, quote, dumbass boomers, but they are doing the same frickin' thing. After the idiots, Bitcoiners in parentheses, ruin a pristine asset, they will cry like bitches. Hey, young people, get your dick out of your hand. Frickin' stupid is as stupid does. Lather, rinse, repeat. Chill now with 666 sats. Run River 1088 echoes signal. Shadow central banks arise on debt. Funding Tether AI integration. Wallets drained in AI fairy tales. Ushering the dystopian Disneyland. Espionage ghost protocol engaged. Bloodshot eyes, soft focus into the abyss. Orb scanning optical device cascades. Shitcoin data. Mining infidelities. Nullifying originality claims. Gateway unlocked. Just another day in Sector 4. Looking for a friend for the end of the world in transmission. Psyduck with 595 says Psyduck. Turkey with 500 says nothing. Yodel with 444 says nothing. And God's death ends us. 237. Thank you, sir. No, thank you. That's the weather report. Welcome to part 2 of the news you can use, FUD. Yes. Starting out, second part of the show with FUD. There was a report on Bitcoin mining that I talked about a couple of weeks ago. It seems that it's been picked back up. It's complete BS. It's talking about, it was that one where they were saying that miners that turn on in Texas cause, I don't know, coal-fired power plants in Tennessee to switch on, which pollutes the air of people in, I don't know, New York State. And they die of particulate matter. It's complete BS. Apparently, it's been picked back up. And it's been making its rounds this morning. There are major and several media outlets that are reporting on the exact same thing. In my opinion, this is coordinated. Now, I saw this because there's a gentleman by the name of Daniel Batten who writes about Bitcoin and energy over on, God forbid, yes, I know, Twitter, but still, good guy. And I've been seeing him combat this crap since last night. this is why I kept seeing this thing come out, because I'm following him on Twitter. I look and I see that he keeps making these replies to these different media outlets, and it's all about the exact same thing. So I ask him, quote, Daniel, this is the third report on Bitcoin mining being bad that I've seen this morning. Feels like another coordinated FUD push from the media. Do you get this feeling as well, or is it just me? So Daniel writes back and he says, yes, The Guardian did a hit piece a couple of days ago, and it's now been copy-pasted around the various media outlets who have more lax fact-checking. What do I mean by this? Well, I kept seeing the same thing from The Nation. Like on Twitter, they would put out, like The Nation as a media outlet would put out something that sounds like this. It says, Texas is the national epicenter of Bitcoin mining. There is an estimated 40 crypto mines in Texas, which together consume enough electricity to power 800,000 homes with at Texas Observer. And then another one from The Nation says, quote, how long are all these communities throughout Texas going to tolerate this, end quote. Texas has more crypto mines than the rest of the U.S. combined, writes Candace Byrne in partnership with at Texas Observer. Okay, well, that's all fine and good, but here's the Texas Observer, and this is their tweet. In our magazine from Candace Byrne, Texas is the national epicenter of Bitcoin mining. Approximately 40 mines are operating in the state, together consuming about 3,200 megawatts, which is enough to power 800,000 homes. And then there's another one from The Nation, and then we get this one, Seneca Lake Guardian. Bitcoin mining is spreading across the country like a cancer, harming communities. Whether it's direct or indirect, you are being impacted by this industry, all to make a very few people, rich people, even richer. IEEE Spectrum. Is Bitcoin mining worth the environmental cost? And they lift it for their image in this tweet. They lift the bullshit map directly out of the bullshit publication that was saying if mines turn on in Texas, it causes Nashville to start burning coal, which kills people in, I don't know, freaking Ottawa, whatever. It was completely debunked the minute it came out. And yet they're using the map here. Now, who's IEEE Spectrum? IEEE is like the International Electrical Engineers Exposition or something like that. It's like, those are the guys that give all the like category 5 cable that you use for Ethernet. That's an IEEE standard. This is all about electrical engineering, right? There's many standards like IEEE double float point compliancy in error correction and calculations. That's a thing. Are you double float point compliant? This is IEEE. And even these guys are coming out with crap. Is there anything else here? I think, wait a minute. No, that's it. I mean, we got IEEE, Texas Observer, this whatever rag that I had said. So IEEE, Seneca Lake Guardian, The Nation, and Texas Observer, all throwing stuff out within hours of each other, and it's the exact same thing based on already debunked information. So be aware that this is coming again. We always go through these cycles where all of a sudden national media gets a hold of something like a dog with a bone and they won't let it go. Do not believe these people at all, because they're all lying to you. Okay, so the UK Secretary of State has ruled out a national crypto reserve, quote, not the plan for us. Decrypt.co, written by Stephen Graves. The UK's Economic Secretary of the Treasury has poured cold water on the idea of the country launching a national crypto reserve. And speaking at the Financial Times Digital Asset Summit in London, Emma Reynolds MP said that following the U.S. government's lead in stockpiling Bitcoin is not the plan for us. Quote, we don't think that's appropriate for our market, Reynolds said. We understand that's what the U.S. is going for, But that's not the plan for us. Yeah, oh my God, you keep saying that. For us, for us, for us. In other areas, the UK is looking to align with the US, Reynolds said, noting that we think it's really important to have collaboration and cooperation. Whatever the hell that means. This is just like she's like saying nothing. It's like she's opening her mouth and literally saying nothing. She pointed to recent meetings between the UK's Chancellor of the Exchequer and US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and the establishment of a, quote, senior official level working group between the UK and the US. Sounds like a reason to have very expensive dinners and wear very expensive clothes. That's what it sounds like. The regulatory forum will meet in June to discuss cooperation on digital assets, she said, noting that the U.S. has undergone a big change from the previous administration in its stance on crypto under the new administration. While a UK digital asset reserve is off the cards, I don't know what that means. Do you mean off the table? I've never heard off the cards before. Anyway, the country is looking at the potential of issuing sovereign debt through using distributed ledger technologies, Reynolds said. Oh my God. Adding that the procurement process is underway and the government hopes to appoint a supplier by a supplier of what? If issuing sovereign debt using distributed ledger technologies and the government hopes to appoint a supplier by late summer. Does anybody have any idea what Miss Reynolds is talking about? A supplier of what? Sovereign debt? You already have a supplier. This is the Bank of England. Looking to the other side of the Atlantic, the UK isn't looking to exactly duplicate the bespoke regime of digital assets established under the EU's markets and crypto assets legislation. Quote, we've decided not to go down that particular road, she explained, pointing out that the UK's legislative tradition is, quote, much less like that of the EU in that we are looking at outcomes. The UK's position is that digital asset regulation should take place, quote, within the regulatory perimeter that traditional financial services firm operates. Essentially, we're saying same risk, same regulatory approach, end quote. Reynolds conceded that some areas of crypto are beyond the ability of governments to regulate, with Bitcoin's fully decentralized nature posing a particular challenge. Quote, there's only so much the government can do in that regard. We understand that some of this stuff is a little bit amorphous and the decentralized stuff is particularly difficult. So they're telegraphing that there's no way they can wrap their little minds around it. So they're just not going to deal with it. They're going to close their eyes and they're going to bury their head in the sand and they're going to hope and pray that it goes away. It's not. It's not going away. And if you literally have an economic secretary of the Treasury say shit like, where was it? Hold on. The country is looking at the potential of issuing sovereign debt through using distributed ledger technologies, and the government hopes to appoint a supplier by late summer. I suppose she means a supplier of distributed ledger technologies, but that it's either that or sovereign debt, and we know that's Bank of England. If you have somebody like that in your government that can barely even speak, this is a dangerous thing. She's not saying anything. All she keeps saying is, it's not for us, and we've decided not to go down that particular road. Why is she even at the Digital Summit asset if they're not going to go down this particular road? And the whole fact that they're going to try to issue sovereign debt through using distributed ledger technologies, that sounds like stablecoin. Of course, they want to do it with probably a digital pound or something like that. I don't think they've actually said that, but I'll bet they're thinking it. I'm just saying that you're late to the game. You're going to get your ass handed to you because the UK, even if you're not part of the Eurozone, you're going to be under attack too through the weaponization of U.S. debt delivered on the weaponry platform that is called Tether. I'm sorry, but you're toast. I wish it wasn't true for the people of Europe because the people of Europe are lovely, right? Because the citizens, pretty much the citizenry around the world, no matter what country they're from, are lovely people. It's the people that are either in power, seek power, or somehow, like warlords and drug gangs, have some kind of illegitimate power. Those are the assholes. Those are the ones that should be rounded up and thrown into the sea. But the rest of the people like just want to go fishing and have babies and fall in love and, I don't know, drink a Coke, that's not laced with poison. We're really simple. We really don't want to get into each other's crap all the time. But the centralized idea of governance is just, it's a bad way to go. And maybe Jack Mallers can help us out because finally, as of today, they are announcing strike lending. Quote, you shouldn't have to sell the best performing asset in human history to access cash, and now you don't have to. Access your Bitcoin wealth without selling it. Build a better life on top of Bitcoin with Strike. Borrow fiat, hodl Bitcoin. Yes. So Strike and Jack Mallers have finally made the official announcement. They're going to start making loans to you in fiat with your Bitcoin as collateral. If I don't know any at all of what the parameters are on these loans, I don't know what the interest rate is. I don't know what the terms are. I'm saying absolutely nothing about that. However, I do like Jack. I mean, even if he is going to be the CEO of 21 and his family basically was like knee deep in Chicago commodities exchange, if they didn't build it themselves, still, I don't know. I'm not going to throw him under the bus just yet. I still like the guy. And if I had to, make a loan with my Bitcoin, it would probably, I would at least call them first to find out terms. We used to have places like BlockFi, but that was a bad deal, clearly. So Strike, if for whatever reason you're in the market for a loan, you might at least take a look at Strike. Just saying. Now on to U.S. stablecoin bill losing Democrats amid Trump corruption concerns. Aaron Wood tells us about this from Cointelegraph. Democratic lawmakers in Washington, D.C. are backing off support for legislation amid heightened concerns over corruption, including the conduct of the Trump family's World Liberty Financial. In March, the Genius Act, which would regulate stablecoins in the United States, passed a critical committee reading with the support of several pro-crypto Democrats. Democratic Senators Rubio Gallego, Mark Warner, Lisa Blunt Rochester, Andy Kim, and Angela Also Brooks voted with Republicans opposite lead Democrat and prominent crypto critic Senator Elizabeth Warren. The bill passed by the committee only after a number of changes were made, including stricter requirements for stablecoin issuers and provisions for, of course, anti-money laundering, counterterrorism financing, and risk management procedures. Now, it seems that even those provisions are insufficient to quell Democratic concerns. Following some high-profile crypto deals that personally enriched President Donald Trump, congressional Democrats are pulling their support. Oh, they're out. They're going. They're leaving. They're leaving in droves. We want to have stablecoin support. Oh, no. It's like, my God, the humanity. It's like the frickin' Hindenburg. Of the 5 pro-crypto Democrats to pass the Genius Act, in the Senate Banking Committee, 4 signed their names to a statement on May 3rd saying that they do not feel comfortable with the direction stablecoin legislation is taking. Quote, the bill, as it currently stands, still has numerous issues that must be addressed, including adding stronger provisions on anti-money laundering, foreign issuers, national security, preserving the safety and soundness of our financial system, and accountability. End quote. That's every single one of those is a cloud of is a fog of war. Every single one of those is a fog of war. You just change the rules. Oh, okay, well, we'll meet your anti-money laundering request by doing X. Well, that's not what we meant. That's why we said just anti-money laundering. See how this goes. The statement does not explicitly call out corruption nor mention Trump by name, but Taken alongside other measures from Democrat lawmakers, it shows a growing reticence to engage on cryptocurrency issues. As Cointelegraph reported on May the 5th, Representative Maxine Waters and other Democratic members of the House Financial Services Committee plan to leave a House of Representatives hearing on crypto titled American Innovation and the Future of Digital Assets on May the 6th. That would be today. According to a staffer familiar with the matter, this would sink the hearing as House rules require all committee members to be present. The hearing concerns a draft bill announced by Representative French Hill and other top Republicans on May the 5th that would change how United States financial regulators, namely the SEC and the CFTC, treat cryptocurrencies. Waters, who has previously called for bipartisan cooperation on crypto legislation, has harshly criticized Trump, specifically his WLFI crypto investment firm. She characterized his Trump meme coin, she characterized his Trump meme coin released on his inauguration as the worst of crypto and has been particularly vocal about WLFI USD1 stablecoin project. At a markup hearing on April the 12th concerning the Stable Act, okay, that was all about the Genius Act. Now I guess we're on to the Stable Act. Waters said the bill in its current form allows the president and insiders to enrich themselves at the expense of everyone else. Quote, if there is no effort to block the president of the United States of America from owning his stablecoin business, I will never be able to agree on supporting this bill, and I would ask other members not to be enablers, said Maxine Waters. Even Hill, a Republican leading the charge for crypto in Washington, said that Trump's crypto projects complicate Congress's ability to pass legislation. Corruption concerns may be one factor behind Democrats pumping the brakes on bipartisan crypto laws, but some observers believe it could be more of a political ploy. Aaron Brogan, a lawyer specializing in regulatory issues in the cryptocurrency industry, said, quote, it's unlikely that this group of senators suddenly came to their senses and realized that the mostly benign stablecoin bill they had previously supported lacked protections that they refused to name, end quote. Brogan suggested that either lawmakers wanted to use support for the bill as leverage. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has reportedly urged Democratic lawmakers in private not to commit to the bill for this very reason, or an influential donor wants to kill the bill or use it as leverage. Protect Progress, a major political action committee supporting crypto, donated millions to Gallego's campaign, Brogan noted. He said it is possible that major donors to the committee, i.e. Coinbase, would rather see the bill replaced with something more to their liking. While he said it's impossible to know for sure, quote, Coinbase has attempted to bundle the pending market structure legislation with stablecoins to make it more likely to pass. WLFI has already netted some $550 million from Trump token sales and is sealing more deals that will enrich its founders and board members, many of whom are Trump family members. One of them, Eric Trump, announced on May the 1st that Abu Dhabi-based investment firm MGX would use SD1, the Trump family stablecoin, or whatever you want to call it, to settle its $2 billion investment in global crypto exchange Binance. At Token 2049, Eric Trump praised the UAE for its crypto-friendly approach, saying that the regulatory-heavy EU is a lost cause. Let's pause. The regulatory-heavy European Union is a lost cause. I'm telling you, man, they are taking aim at the European Union. That entire structure is going to fall, and it's not going to be USD1 that does it. It's going to be Tether. Let's be very clear on what weapon has more firepower. Just because Trump is backing USD1 and his family is backing USD1 isn't going to do a damn thing. It's going to be Tether. It's the F-15 weapons platform to launch U.S. debt from, and it's taking its first aim at the European Union. I guarantee it. But back to this, in November of 2024, the founder of Tron blockchain, Justin Sun, became the largest investor in WLFI when he bought some $30 million worth of Trump. We're talking Trump coin. More recent reports suggest he has spent nearly $70 million. On February the 24th, just 1 month after Trump took office, the SEC, then with acting chair Mark Uyeda at the helm, halted its civil fraud investigation into Justin Sun, despite previous allegations that Sun and the Tron Foundation had illegally distributed tokens, concealed celebrity donations, and inflated trade volumes. And then there's more history, like basically it's sort of a hit piece on Trump. But I've said this before. It does not make any sense to me at all why Trump launched Trump Coin, the world liberty or the world financial liberty thing, Melania Coin, all of it. It doesn't make sense on the surface. I'm sure somebody somewhere saying, well, they're playing 4D chess, man. Well, I don't fucking care. It still doesn't make sense. This, it just looks bad. I'm sorry, it just does. And I could, I could come out and try to defend Orange Man, or I could try to cripple him. I'm trying to be neutral here. But let's say that let's say it was Barack Obama that was doing it. Let's just flip the tables to see what the mirror image looks like. There would have been no end whatsoever to the amount of beratement that Barack Obama would have gotten had he done this exact same thing under these exact same circumstances. All right, so there's the problem isn't the man. The problem is the presidency of the United States. Doing things that look even, and here's the whole deal. Trump has nothing to do with WLFI directly on paper. Legally, the legal infrastructure precludes him from making any decisions. Does that mean that he doesn't call his sons up because they're the ones that do have actual charge and say, hey, you need to do this, and then they do it? Sure, I'm sure that actually happens. But as far as legal framework is concerned, he doesn't have anything to do with this damn thing. But it's the optics, isn't it? The optics here are very bad. It doesn't matter how you slice it. It doesn't matter if you love him, hate him, completely neutral on him. The optics here are terrible. Now, what is this? Does this mean that stablecoin legislation is going to stall? Yeah, probably. Does this mean that that's bad? I don't give a shit. It doesn't matter to me. I don't use stablecoins. However, that stablecoin regulation has more to do with what's going on in the United States than it does, say, with Tether. Remember what I've been saying. Tether is an outside entity that is acting as a de facto spread of United States debt. It's like a shadow central bank. I've said it before. I've said it several times. I will continue to say it. Whatever they do here on this stablecoin legislation in the United States is not going to save the European Union from being torpedoed by Tether. It's not going to save any other country from having our debt flooded into their pockets. And that's not going to help them, by the way. It's going to look like it helps them, and at first it's going to seem like a jubilee, but it's just going to end up being us printing an ass load of debt, and we're just going to ship it off to the shores, the golden shores across the seas. It's going to be great for us in the short to medium term. It's going to be great for the rest of the world that needs dollar liquidity in the shorter term. But in the long term, you're going to want to hold Bitcoin. And you might want to do that with Wasabi Wallet. I don't know. I shouldn't have said that because I've never used Wasabi Wallet. But Wasabi Wallet version 2.6.0 is out. And it's the first version to sync and operate without a central server. Oh, nice. This is no bullshit Bitcoin, by the way. Key features include support for BIP 158 block filters for direct node synchronization a revamped full node integration for easier setup with no third-party reliance, slip 39 share backups for flexible wallet recovery, and a nostr-based update manager for censorship-resistant updates. Oh, wow. So Wasabi is going to take part of Nostr Store. Nice. Additional improvements include UI bug fixes, a new fallback for transaction broadcasting, updated code signaling, stricter JSON serialization. Yeah, it's above my pay grade there. The new version brings us closer to our ultimate goal, which is ensuring Wasabi is future-proof, said the developers. As we achieve our survival goals, expect more cutting-edge improvements in Bitcoin privacy and self-custody. Thank you for your trust. Yada, yada, yada. And then they get into a long list of updates. It looks like it's a pretty big update. But the biggest thing here for me is the fact that you can update your wallet with Nostr, which is going to provide web of trust, and it's going to provide signatures that you can trust that what you're getting is, in fact, the payload package that you need to install. That by itself is totally awesome. Plus the fact that you can synchronize without a central server that's what we want. So if you're looking to test wallets out because you're a geek like me, give Wasabi Wallet version 2.6.0 a try. That's the end of the show, ladies and gentlemen. Do not fret with all the stuff that's going on. Honestly, this op return thing, please just let me leave you with this. It's not about the data. It's not about bloat on the blockchain. We already had that with ordinals, and now ordinals, nobody gives a shit about them. Just like nobody cares about the Ethereum rocks. Do you even remember those? I do. Nobody cares about NFTs anymore. Nobody cares. It was a fad. It was always destined to be a fad. Yet we were getting full mempools all over the place after ordinals and inscriptions were released. It was for months. For months there was, fairly high fee rates on transactions. It's all gone. Nobody cares anymore because it's all worthless, and it was always meant to be worthless. Everybody knew all of these things were worthless. It's not about the data. It's about the way the op return thing was handled by Bitcoin Core. It doesn't mean that I'm switching over to knots, but it also doesn't mean that I'm going to be going up in my version number past 29.0. I'm going to wait and see what the hell happens. I can chill out on 29.0 for quite a while. And so can you if you're a node runner, right? That's what I'm referring to. It's like I run 2 Bitcoin nodes, and they're both up to date, and they're both at 29.0. I'm not going to upgrade when they release this new thing. And I never do. I always wait at least, a couple of months. I think, like this last time, I waited quite a while. I've waited up for a year before. It doesn't make me any difference. It doesn't. My wallet still works just fine. And yours will too. You don't have to do that. And you also don't have to go over to Bitcoin Knots, which is Luke Dash Jr.'s thing. Although he's gained he's got a lot of new users of his Bitcoin Core implementation, which is what Bitcoin Knots is. It's Bitcoin Core, it's just his version of it. It works the same way Bitcoin Core does, except he's got filters that blocks ordinals and inscriptions. And he's going to do something where it clearly does not allow a lift of the op return past 80 kilobytes. So if you want to run that, that's fine. Right now, Bitcoin Knots actually has more users than Bitcoin Core version 29.0. Because a lot of people are thinking that this will fix it. I'm not saying that it won't, but I'm also not suggesting that it automatically fixes it. You got to remember, Bitcoin Knots is an implementation by one guy. It doesn't mean that it makes it bad. It just means be aware. It's not a team of people, at least as far as I know, unless he's gotten some more people to work on it. What I'm really saying is that take a deep breath. Calm down and For God forbid, don't go look at Bitcoin Twitter. It is a mess, especially today. It's really bad. It's going to make you feel bad. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. If you're looking for someplace else to go that will give you positive vibes, finally find your way over to Nostr, for the love of God, please. And you can create your Nostr account in like 5 or 6 simple steps with instart.me. That's instart.me. It'll take you right through like 4 or 5 screens, maybe 6. And each one of those screens tells you what you're doing. And it gives you all the stuff that you need to do it. And you do it right on the screen. You just fill out stuff in boxes and you hit next. It's as easy as it will ever get. And after that, you need to go over to following.space. Following.space will give you whole packs of people on Nostr to follow. Like you can follow 64 users that are all from Brazil just by clicking one button. If you're a Brazilian and you're listening to me and you hate Bitcoin Twitter as much as I do and you want to try Nostr, then you need to go to, what was it? Start.me? Instart.me, in as in Nancy, start.me. You'll be up and running on Nostr in like 5 minutes. And then right after that, go to following.space, log in with your Nostr. And then you can, if you're Brazilian, you can go over here to the Brazil one. It has 64 users. And if I click on it at following.space, there is a button here that says follow all. If you just want to say, I want to follow all my Brazilian pals, just hit that one button. That's how easy following.space is and instart.me is to get started on Nostr. Do yourself a favor. Get as far away from Twitter for at least for the next few weeks as you possibly can. It's going to be a shit show, and I'll see you on the other side. This has been Bitcoin and I'm your host, David Bennett. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and hope to see you again real soon. Have a great day.